mentioned the defensive backs for them, how all the tackles. I mean, a lot of times we kind of think of that as, well, maybe the guys up front are doing that job. Is that?
Well, when you play quarters in coverage, let me just do a little football talk for you. When you play quarters in coverage, okay, quarters means there's 4 quarters of the field. The 2 corners have the outside corners, the 2 safeties have the inside corners. There's 2 mentalities. One where they back up and play soft and make you throw everything underneath you, and the other one is they're the force guys. So in this case, these safeties are the force guys. So when action comes to either side and they're playing that coverage, which is their lead coverage, they're filling in the alley right now. So that is by design for teams that are trying to get to the edge outside of all these big muchachos that I talked about inside. They're trying to get to the edge, and this way it puts those safeties in a position where they have to make tackles. And unfortunately, they make tackles.
Coach, your quarterback do the reps get split up based on field, based on what's going on? Exactly.
Do you expect me to answer that question? What we're going to do, for example, we have 2 main periods of offense today. One period, Michael will be the lead guy. The next period, Dane will be the lead guy. Now, they both rep within that period. Okay, but I'll have to wait and see how it goes. I have a whole bunch of things in for this game. I mean, we can't just go line up and go vanilla and sit there and figure we're going to slug it out, and that's going to work out to our advantage. But both guys know what they're responsible for, and they'll both get plenty of reps in practice.
Philosophically, how do you feel about using the 2 quarterback system? Have you done it before, and could you see doing it the rest of the year?
Let's hope that whoever goes in first place so great that it makes it impossible for me to want to put the second guy in. But I have to think in a 60-minute game there'll probably come a time where I say, okay, let's flip over to this other package right here.
Is there substantially less available? Not looking for a number or anything, but substantially less available with your playbook that Michael can do? Or?
Not with what we're doing.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I'm fired up about this to see what this stuff looks like. I mean, I've been sleeping very well, but I've been drawing them in the dirt now for the last 48 hours.
You said in the preseason that Michael was kind of miscast as a dual threat guy, that he's more of a pure pocket passer. How have you seen him grow, this year to get to the point where he's at now and can actually be contributing?
Well, he still would be, significantly behind Dane when it comes to reading coverages. But I mean, his handling of everything. I mean, remember now, the kid hadn't played in 2 years. Really didn't play his senior year. Didn't play last year. He was redshirted. So I mean, this is 3 years since he's had significant time. So I have to tell you, you get rusty. Not playing for real, you get rusty. And I'm hoping his best football's ahead of him.
You mentioned after, I think it might have been Sunday, but you mentioned, that there would be some things, it was after the game, that surely you'd see some things you didn't like from Michael when you watched the film. Anything glaring? I mean, anything that
Well, I think there were a couple things that experience would help him with. The last play we're in on offense. I mean, I had guys open all over the place. I mean, touchdown, corner route. I mean, we have an opportunity to win the game on that play right there. But because this defensive end unusually rushes way outside upfield, if you went back and watched the play, he's way outside upfield. Instead of not throwing trying to jump and throw the ball to the guy in the right flat right there, just step up in the pocket and hit one of those 2 guys that are running all by themselves down the field. I mean, but I'm not mad at him about that. It's unfortunate, but that's the type of thing with experience. He wouldn't even think about throwing that ball. He'd just step up because there was a nice pocket for him. Protection was good. He wasn't under duress. But that's what happened. That's part of growing up. That's part of experiencing. It comes with the territory.
Regardless of whether he's a mobile guy or miscast, like Rustin said, I mean, does the protection change when he's out there? Did the offensive linemen have different responsibilities just because of what Michael can do?
No, the offensive line isn't doing, they're not the people that have to make adjustments. The coaching staff and the skill players, the guys that, we have some things that we have to do. The offensive line isn't that versatile, okay? You know, I think that we have to count on coaching and the skill players to go ahead and handle that. Now, I know somebody requested Tim for today. He would probably debate the versatility of the offensive line, but he'd be wrong.
Looking at the tape, did your defense take a nice step better?
Well, I think the thing that showed in person when you were there, and then it was verified on the tape. See, one thing you can't watch on tape, you can't see on tape is emotion. You know, emotion you only can feel when you're there. I mean, there's sometimes you watch a tape and it doesn't really feel the same way. Sometimes good, sometimes bad in comparison to what actually happened. But what I saw when we were out there is that, you know, we were physically handling the line of scrimmage and making plays close to the line of scrimmage, and when I watched on tape, that was all verified. You know, they weren't just a bunch of lucky one-hand tackles. There was a bunch of gang tackles, and, you know, I don't think they were really looking for too much of a part of that, to tell you the truth.
There was a game here 4 years ago when Texas Tech was in town, and then a student who had kicked a 30-yard field goal at halftime in some competition made his debut in this game and made 9 of 9 extra points for Texas Tech. Have you been approached by anyone, the staff been approached by any students claiming they can help you out?
Well, we approached them, they didn't approach us. I mean, I scoured the campus. No. We had a couple of guys that came in, an Australian rules football player, and a couple other guys. So we had them come over, but you know, they couldn't kick a football. They forgot it's a different ball. You know, I think that have there been guys that have done that? There's been multiple kickers that have showed up in the NFL from Australia that ended up, you know, punting and all that other stuff. But no, we haven't been that fortunate to have somebody. Yeah, I did that. I took a kid out of a dorm. I took out a kid out of a dorm team one time, and 2 years ago he was one of the finalists for the Groza Award. So I mean, it happens. There are people like that are out there, but no, I wasn't that lucky. We'll take care of that problem here in the near future.
You mentioned that Ron was banged up, but you had to do something anyway. Where do you go from here, and is his injury significant?
He'll punt this week.
Okay.
That's what he'll do. He'll punt this week. Now, I thought Huddleston did a nice job under the circumstances, but that's what Ron will do. He'll back up a kicker, and he'll punt.
Does both quarterbacks, knowing that both will be playing, take pressure off of both of those guys?
Well, in Michael's case, it puts pressure on him, to tell you the truth, because he now knows he's going to play. You know, I think it keeps Dan from being totally in the tank. You know, because if you come in and say, hey, Michael's the guy, well, you know, that tank can't get big enough. And then Michael, on the other hand, I asked him to make sure he checked his pants and stuff like that, because he's going to play this week in Norman. So, you know, I think they were both at ease. You know, I mean, one thing with the players, I always tell the players exactly what's happening. I'm probably the least, you know, superficial person you have. So I just tell, here's the deal. Here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it. Here's how we're doing it. So I mean, when they left my meeting with me last night, after Bob kept me on a radio show for 18 hours. And after we finished that, they came back. We sat there with me and Ron, and we sat there and told, here's what we're doing, here's how we're doing it, and you know, everyone, there's no miscommunication here. And don't worry about trying to get the players to talk about it, because I have a strong feeling that when you ask them any questions, they'll defer the question to Coach Weis. I have a strong feeling that that's the way that'll be.
Getting back to your defense then, I mean, was this I guess is what Campo's been able to do about what you expected at this time frame, or is he ahead of pace, or?
Well, I mean, 2 weeks ago against Kansas State, he was miserable.
Yeah.
I mean, so, but I think that to show what they did in this game at the end of the game shows them. Campo's been around a long time. He's seen good play and he's seen bad play. But the players haven't seen good play. That's more important. Because when the players know hey, look, that's the best offense in the country and we just roughed them up. You know, then our expectations of how they play should then go up, right? I mean, if that's the leading the country in offense, and they not only slugged it out with them, but you know, at the end of the game, had the best of them. The players it really gained more than anyone else on this, because you know the players got they got some bounce in their step. Do they like being 1-5? Absolutely not. Do they feel they're improving? You know, absolutely.
Is it more difficult especially for a young quarterback to come into a game knowing that they have all this time to prepare, knowing that they're going in, as opposed to just kind of throwing them out there during a game and not having a lot of time to think about it?
You know, I'm going to quote one of my former predecessors, one of my mentors. He doesn't know he doesn't know. I mean, he's just worrying about the next play. I mean, the last thing he's worrying about is what Oklahoma's thinking. You'll think that way, I'll think that way. We'll think about the psychological plot and all that other stuff. He's worrying about practice today. He's not worried about Saturday at 6. He's worried about not screwing up in practice. I mean, it's very short term with the younger guys. They're just living play by play, day by day. You know, I don't think that until it's Friday night or Saturday morning, I think that's the first time butterflies will even hit you, because until that time, I don't think you have time really to think about it.
So it's safe to say you think Mike has the confidence to be able to go on the road to a place like Oklahoma and make an impact?
Better, because I'm playing him. You know, he's going to go in there, so we're gonna find out whether he does or doesn't, because he's going in there.
Is there anything you've learned about James Sims since he's been back on the field that you didn't know about him when he wasn't playing?
Well, I think more you guys learned about, because he's doing exactly what I told you when we finished in training camp. I mean, you go back and look and remember my description, what I said about this kid at that time, and he's almost what I told you. All he's done is verify what I thought. But I mean, when I described him, at the end of training camp, everyone told me he's too slow to run outside. Well, let's check that one out again. I mean, physical, can pick up the blitz, can catch. I mean, look at you. Last week, everyone was talking about that number 1 from Oklahoma State. Now they're talking about, Damian. I mean, I think that a lot of people better start taking a look at that guy on our team.
With your receivers ailing, are you going to rely more on the versatility of your backs?
I think that we've been doing that for quite some time, to be honest with you. We've been a run-first team for quite some time, and I think that the better the backs run, the better the chance we have of being successful in the pass game, because, you can play off of everyone coming up more and more to try to stop the run.
James said something after the game. He said he really wanted the ball in the fourth quarter. Did you see?
He doesn't say that to me.
Is that is that a characteristic that you want in a running back that wants the ball?
Well, I'll create some James lore, okay? Now, of course, he didn't say it to me, but right before he scored the touchdown, or a couple plays before the touchdown, he went into the huddle and told the offensive line, just give me a little bit more time and I'll get it in the end zone. This was when we were on our end of the field. Okay, and a few plays later, he's in the end zone. So at least he's backing it. He said that to him, and then he went and backed it up. So let me tell you something. Those linemen and those tight ends and those other guys, when you say something and then you back it up, they block a little harder, block a little longer. They try a little harder because, they want to be a part of that. And they score, those offensive linemen score vicariously through those running backs. That's how they score. So I think that that was a good thing.
James pretty quiet, pretty, mellow guy. Did the flex surprise you, and do you like to see that?
I think that anytime their personality comes out and I don't get a 15-yard penalty, that's fine with me. I mean, I like celebrating just as long as it's within the rules. It doesn't cost you yardage. You know, I'm never against it. You know, I think that you have to make sure that whatever you do isn't just about you. Okay, isn't just about you and doesn't cost your team. I think that's really the important thing.
Does this Oklahoma team have as much talent, potential NFL talent, as you'll see in the Big 12, you think?
Yeah, they have a bunch of players. They do. They have a bunch, and they have them on both sides of the ball too. You you look at draftable guys. You know, I'm looking at my current draftable guys and their current draftable guys, and it's night and day different right now. And let's be practical. If they play their best game and we play their best game, they win. Because they have good coaches and they have good players. But I'm counting that that's not the way it goes. I'm counting that we play our best game and they don't. I mean, that's gives us the best chance to win.
You talked about how you saw an attitude difference in the fourth quarter, and they really wanted to win this game. Have you seen that in practice, and how do you keep that going?
I've never seen it here. That's the whole point. Not since I've been here have I seen it. That was the first time. That's why, as miserable as I was after that game, that was the first time I was ever proud of our team. Actually, it's the second time I've been proud of our team. First time was when I got the grades last semester. And I said that to him in the locker room after the game. And you want to know something? It's the first time since that 3.0 grade point average where you could see any pride, true pride, in the locker room after the game, even though they had lost the game. And you want to know something? That's a good thing. And I told him that.
Last week you talked a lot about getting some, guys that hadn't had a lot of reps on the field. We saw Darius Willis, we saw Victor Simmons, obviously we saw Michael. Did anyone step forward, and do you plan to continue to do that, or did that sort of settle that down?
Well, as a matter of fact, Darius Willis, we're going to list it the second rush end behind Tobin. So I mean, remember now. Here's a guy. Let's talk about Darius just for a second. There's a guy who started here, middle linebacker. Then he got beaten out by a bunch of guys, and instead of whining and complaining, he went down to show team. And we put him at rush end because I thought that he needed to play another position to get in a position where he could compete. And then he just went hard and hard and hard. And eventually I said to the defensive staff, I said, you got to take a look at this kid, defensive end. Because the defensive staff isn't watching that. They're watching the other end. And, now he's put himself in a position to, be in the two deep and get on the field and play.
It's just that. It's just the motor that.
Motor and making plays.
Yeah.
It's one thing having a motor. The other one's actually, making plays. He's disruptive.
Yeah.
He's helping us.
You mentioned draftable players. Do you have a ballpark number on how many you have and a ballpark number on where you need to get to have a winning program in the Big 12?
Well, first of all, you need a bunch of good players. You need a bunch of them. And you need them on there and all throughout your program. Some could be developing that are good players. Okay, but there's the ones that are exiting and the ones that are entering. So they're coming in two directions. I just know that as the case will tell here in the near future, there won't be that many of them here immediately. But there's more in the program now that aren't ready to come out yet. There's more in the program now, and there's more on the horizon. So I think that if you're going to go compete against all these teams, this is a tough conference now. Every single team is tough. You can't look at one team that we go against and say they're not tough. Every one of them. So the best way to get better is to work as hard as you possibly can and just go recruit more players.
Maybe a dumb question. Is James one of those? James Sims? I know it's down the road.
I can't see any reason why he wouldn't play on Sunday. I can't see any reason. I can't see one reason why he wouldn't play on Sunday. Yeah, tell me what his weakness is.
telling you.
I mean, no, I'm saying, you watch the games, I mean, your perspective might be different than mine. I mean, he doesn't run a 4-3, okay, I get it,
Yeah.
okay? There's guys in the Hall of Fame that didn't run 4-3s too. You know, I think he's a nice, solid player. I'd want him on my team.
Michael talked after the game about how he was kind of still looking to Dane as a leader. Do you see those two working together?
Yeah, Dane will never change who Dane is. You know, look, if Dane had his druthers, he'd be playing every single play. But that's not going to change who Dane is. When Dane isn't in there, Dane will be the first guy trying to help him. And I've known him for a long time. I would be disappointed if it were anything other than that.
If Dane is on the sideline, can he continue to be this team's leader? Even if that happens.
I think that for a half a season you could probably get by with that. But realistically, it's tough to be the leader when you're not on the field. You know, I had that exact conversation with Phil Sims one time. When I asked him, you know, why he wouldn't talk to the team when we were struggling. And at the time, he was the backup quarterback, and he said to me, Charlie, he goes, the players don't want to listen to you if you're not the one who's out there. You know, I think that our team is not that immature at this point where they would not listen to Dave because they all respect him and he gives good advice. So I don't see that becoming a problem. I think if it were a long-term situation, it would not be the best thing.